Greta Thunberg has been named Times Person of the Year. And the most important thing you can know about Times Person of the Year is that it's an editorial decision, meaning it doesn't really mean anything. There's no poll, there's no, a list of accolades you must produce. They literally just decide if they think you should be the person of the year. So now it's Greta Thunberg. And this is a really good example of why one of the biggest problems I have with the left. It's like they don't believe in earning things. I know that's not absolutely true, but Greta Thunberg is famous because she skipped school. And I know that might be a bit reductive or dismissive, but that's really what she did. Let's take a look at her storied career. Just over a year ago, she refused to go to school. Someone then published it in the press. Someone then asked her to talk about what she was concerned about. She was then propped up by people with political motivations because she fit the narrative. That's really it. It's not an accomplishment to skip school. It's not an accomplishment to speak out about climate change. I've been speaking out about climate change before she was even born. I'm not even kidding. I was working for several nonprofits. Actually, no, she was probably alive. She was probably like one or two. But I was actually doing environmental fundraising, signing up members to various organizations to protect the environment. Greta literally just skipped school. And now the reason why, look, I want to make it clear. I know a lot of people are disappointed or whatever, and I think it's fair, but listen, Time Magazine is an editorial choice. It's completely irrelevant. I was featured in 2011's The Protester. There were 6 features, and I was one of them. And it was arbitrary. They just decided to put me in there. I don't know. I didn't do anything. I went around. I guess I did. I filmed Occupy Wall Street, so they included me as a featured protester. All right, great. I appreciate it, Time. They then went on to feature me as like one of their top Twitter accounts, and they really loved me. But it's completely editorial. And so I actually know people from Time, and they have a list. When they do the Time 100 every year, they ask you to vote on who you think should be in the Time 100. So I was actually nominated for Time's 100 most influential people, and I just didn't care. So I found out, I thought this list was like how they actually choose it. And I was ranked number 74 in polling. So don't ask me how or why, but basically what happens is they put up 200 people. They said, vote for who you think should be on the list. And I was like the 74th out of 200. And I'm like, wow, that's great. I was higher than some SNL cast members or something. And I'm like, hey, great. I guess a bunch of activists liked, what I was doing. I did not make the list. The official, I was nominated. I did not officially make the list. And I was confused by that because I was like, wait a minute, I was number 74. Like, wouldn't that make the cut? And I was told by one of the editors, no, it's not how it works. The whole list is editorial. It's just a handful of people in a room just writing names down. That's all it really is. So what ended up happening that year, I think it may have been that year, I'm not sure. 4chan, I think, voted for Moot, the founder, to get him on the list. And I think it worked. I think they were using botting techniques and manipulating the polls. Because apparently how it worked was the number 1 person was guaranteed to be on the list. But I want to show you something that's really disappointing. Here's a poll from today's show. You can see how I voted. Who should be Time's 2019 Person of the Year? 96% of users agree with you out of 253,000 votes. Nancy Pelosi has 1%. Donald Trump has 1%. The whistleblower presumably has less than 1% because the Hong Kong protesters have 96%. And Greta Thunberg has 2%. That's right. The Today Show ran a poll asking 250,000 people who should be on Time's Person of the Year. Now stop. I understand the Today Show is not Time Magazine. I'm just showing you they show the short list and said who should be on it. Everybody said Hong Kong protesters. And I got to admit, I think so too. They've been protesting for quite some time. There have been protests on and off, and they're fighting for their lives. People are like, some people are dead, okay? It is a very serious and nightmarish battle for freedom versus the Communist Party of China, who's currently detaining people in concentration camps. With respect to Greta Thunberg for being a protester, she does not deserve more respect than the Hong Kong protesters get. Greta Thunberg, as a young person who skipped school to complain about, inaction in climate change, while I can respect the protest, absolutely, I'm not going to weigh that above, I don't know, even Al Gore. You know what I mean? So I get it. Al Gore is not really in the picture. But I'll tell you what, man, There are substantially more people involved in fighting for climate change who are doing more work than Greta did. I can respect that she's actually doing a lot of this work now that she's been propped up in this way, but let's be real. The only thing she has going for her is that other people decided she would be a good mascot for their cause. That's it. What she's doing requires no special skills. She has no special knowledge. In fact, she's quite ignorant over how these things work and to their own detriment. I was just talking to a friend about how I said this, a couple days ago, so I made a couple of videos about Greta. Look, man, I would rather debate 100 climate change deniers than 100 climate change activists. Because the climate change activists right now, for the most part, are like smash the patriarchy, destroy capitalism. None of those things will solve the problem because you look at what's going on in France. In France, you have ongoing riots for over a year, protests, some riots going on for over a year, because they tried they put a tax on gasoline because we got to reduce carbon emissions, right? That's what you get. So if you try and come in the way Greta does, saying, smash patriarchy and colonialization, and that's literally what she said recently. She wrote in an op-ed saying this. And like AOC saying, no planes, farting cows, get them out of there. People are going to look at you like you're nuts because you cannot convince the system to do a 180 overnight. It would destroy the lives of every American if we outright banned fossil fuels. What we can do, and I know you've probably heard me say it a million times, is just figure out where we can get an economic incentive that can bolster the economy, create new jobs, and allow us to compete against China, that conservatives would be on board with, that would also result in reduced carbon emissions. I don't know. How about nuclear energy? Nope. I've worked for these companies, man. They don't care about nuclear energy. They don't care about, solutions. I'll tell you this. If they really cared about solving the problem, nuclear would be on the front of the list. Now, I understand. You got waste problems. You got Fukushima. You got Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island. Yes, but we have new technology. Just because our technology in the past failed at a higher rate doesn't mean we stop. Could you imagine if the first time there was a major plane crash, they just shut all air traffic down? No. Nobody can fly because a plane crashed. No. We realize that some of these things make mistakes. Out of how many reactors ever built have we had major disasters? A small handful. And I know waste is a big issue. Right. I tell you this right now. The return on energy investment for nuclear energy is so high, it could be a short-term fix that will allow us to advance to new technological solutions. Solar and wind, fantastic. Big fan. Geothermal, not as much of a fan of solar and solar and wind, because geothermal does pull, chemical, gases up from deep earth vents and stuff. And tidal energy, perhaps. The way tidal energy works is you put generators by where the tide comes in, and then when the tide comes in, the water rushes through generators, spinning turbines. It's all about spinning them turbines, transferring that energy. So there's a lot of things we can do, but wind and solar have a really low energy output relative to how much energy we have to use to create. It takes a long time to get that investment back, meaning we're spending more energy with fossil fuels to produce these things than they're going to put out for a long time. So I certainly think wind is a great choice. The problem is we need battery tech. All right, how do we store all of that energy for when, say, wind isn't blowing? There's also been a really interesting development. They were able to store solar energy chemically and release it as thermal energy. This is incredible. You really got to understand how incredible this is. So just basically they have this fluid. It's a closed system, which means they don't open it up. It's sealed, and when light hits it, there's a chemical reaction inside that they can then reverse to release heat. Think about what that means. Throughout the summer months, you have this network, this fluid, absorbing all the sunlight and converting a chemical in a closed system. And then in the winter, you can release that solar energy as heat for your home. That's extremely efficient. So I hope we get to that point. I don't know how expensive that chemical is, but I looked at things like that and say, that's your solution. What if I told you, a conservative, what if I went to a conservative, or I shouldn't say conservative, because not everybody on the right, doesn't believe in climate change. Let's say I went to every climate change denier and said, forget all that. What if I could save you $200 a month on your winter heating bill? You'd be like, whoa. Because heating bills can be a lot, man. I don't know if you live in Minnesota or Chicago, you see that bill. for like, 3-4 bedroom house, you're going to spend a couple $100, right? What if I said, I will get rid of that cost for you? You will never pay that bill again. People are going to say, sign me up, man. Free heat. It's not free heat. You got to install the system. So I tell you what, you spend a couple grand now, and then for the next 5-10 years, no heating, like you're going to make all that money back, no heating bill, right? That's a solution. It's a solution that speaks to people for economic incentives, for efficiency, and it's actually going to make people's lives better. It's not even about, your heating bill, like saving money. It's about a more efficient system of heat for your home that could have like a network of fluid throughout the house, more evenly heating your house. It all comes down to this. Everybody wants to make their lives better. How do you do that? What Greta is proposing is like destroy everything before it's too late. And my response is, if you had to destroy everything, what's the point? Like, if we're trying to stop everything from being destroyed, why tear everything down? And I'll tell you this, man, I'd be willing to bet people like Greta are the last people to go and work on a farm and use human energy to replace the energy they removed from the system. Without fossil fuels right now, 1 billion plus people would die in like a month? Yeah, we got big problems, man. And we can change these things. But talking about smashing patriarchy and all that stuff is not the right thing. So I'll tell you what, this is what I really, really just hate about the left. They don't care about how, there's no adults in the room, okay? This is what I see. There's no adults in the room. Politically, I align with a lot of what's going on the left. I like social programs, but there's no adult in the room to tell people when it has to be fixed. All they care about is care and fairness. You look at Jonathan Haidt's research. I love citing this stuff. Care and fairness. Actually, I think I have it pulled up. Let me see if I have it pulled up. Moral foundations theory. So basically, Jonathan Haidt said that the left only adheres to 2 moral foundations, whereas the right, and many moderates, adhere to all 5. On the moral foundations test, they added liberty as a 6th foundation. I am a left liberal. My biggest foundations are care and fairness. But combine care and fairness with ignorance, and you get Greta Thunberg. She says, I'm doing right by the world. Burn it down. And I say, no. First of all, care and fairness falls, is an umbrella that covers even conservatives, which means we have to respect them, their lives, and their liberty as well. But it also means we have serious problems other people might not be interested in talking about. What happens then is the left has no loyalty, has very little loyalty, a respect for authority and sanctity. All they want to do is say, if someone says they're hurt, I want it to be fair. But you combine that with ignorance and you get the modern left. So I am a care and fairness individual. I do have decent amounts of loyalty, authority, and sanctity. I did a video about it. And liberty for me is pretty high. I think care, fairness, and liberty are my highest. So for me, I'm like, yes, I want to help, marginalized communities. How do we do that? Well, we got a bunch of conservatives who disagree on these policies. Okay, how can we be fair and take care of everybody? Well, it's simple. When we talk about affirmative action, that's not fair. It's not fair to say one person based on their race gets something and the other person doesn't. Class is the best we can do. So I want to be fair and care for everyone. Unfortunately, you have an ignorant tribalist left that doesn't actually care about everyone. I don't know what they care about, but apparently care is their biggest foundation. Oh, funny enough, libertarians basically only have the Liberty Foundation. I kid you not. When they take the moral foundations test, libertarians score ridiculously high on liberty and really low on everything else. Because they're like, all that matters is that you have the right to control your own life and you are responsible for yourself. I can respect that, right? But I'm a bit of a lefty, right? I want to help people out. I want to make sure we can take care and preserve what we have. So conservatives on all, are about equally balanced on all of these foundations, tend to look at someone like Greta and say, you're threatening, the system. So when you have someone who believes in authority, loyalty, and sanctity, they're not going to say burn the whole system down, smash the patriarchy and colonization and all colonialism and all that stuff. They're going to say they're more likely going to be reformist. The tribalists is where things get dirty, because then you get people saying, I don't care what the scientists say, they're wrong. And then you get people on the left saying, I don't care what the economists say, they're wrong, the climate's more important. I'll tell you what, without a functioning economy, life will be miserable. okay? That may not be an excuse for avoiding climate change issues, but you will get rioting. Life will break down as you know it if you pull the rug out from the system. The best thing we can do then is look for mutually beneficial solutions. Greta wins Times Person of the Year. Congratulations. The Hong Kong protesters who are fighting for their lives against a corrupt regime did not. And to me, that's sad because they have propped up a child whose claim to fame is skipping school. You know what? What can you say? It's the same old pattern. We need a new left in this country. We need adults. We need people on the left who are willing to, for all the bad things Obama did, at least when it came to certain issues, he compromised. Because that's what an adult would do. It's a child who would say, "You have stolen my dreams," while being named Person of the Year. Man, get out of here. Spoiled privilege. I hope, you know what I'm going to do? Whenever someone asks me what white privilege means, I'm going to print out little cards with a definition and a picture of Greta Thunberg. She is exactly what that is. She is a wealthy white child who skipped school and made the cover of a magazine for doing so. And yet I tell you this, man, growing up on the South Side, I can't tell you how many people in Chicago are fighting for their lives for a better future, and they get nothing. Think about what's going on with the violence in Chicago. You know how many activists are Greta's age who are risking their lives? How about these people who are in Chicago who know how bad it is, standing up saying, "I refuse to go to school until ceasefire." Nobody cares about them. But hey, you give her a yacht, bring her to the UN, slap her on the cover of a magazine, and you've just stolen her childhood. Yeah, you know what, man? I'll tell you whose childhood was stolen. The girl who died in Hong Kong. The girl who died in Hong Kong. And there's more than one, but there's this big story. How about the girl who lost an eye? I think more than one. Yeah, those are people who have lost their childhoods, okay? Not you, who's wealthy and privileged and get to sail around the world and be on the cover of magazines. For shame. I wish we could have sane, reasonable activists who talked reality instead of just screeching, "You have stolen my childhood." Oh, come on, man. That's the most repulsive thing I've ever seen. I'm done. I'll see you guys at 1 p.m. I'm losing my voice. Hopefully I'll make it. Thanks for hanging out.